It seems incredible to me that here we are 30 years later after the establishment of the London Docklands Development Corporation. I look back on it as one of the most exciting projects in which I was involved in those difficult times of the early 80s. Of course, there was also an equivalent corporation in Liverpool, and then later, I think under Nick Ridley, they were extended to other major British cities. The last wave of them, I think I actually introduced myself in Plymouth and Birmingham, but the difference then, it was by voluntary agreement with the local authorities, whereas the early ones, I'm afraid, had to be imposed against fairly entrenched opposition. But again, with hindsight, we can see how exciting the whole project was to be. The East End of London has been transformed. There's still more to do, interestingly enough, in the Docklands Corporation area, but so much has been done that it's now a certainty that the rest will follow. What do I look back on? Well, I think without any doubt, some of the very big personalities that were involved. I remember very clearly when I was first appointing people, I chose Nigel Brokes as the chairman because he brought a private sector initiative and experience. And then I, if you like, matched him with Bob Mellish, who'd been a Labour housing minister and a really much respected member of the House of Commons. And that pair were the chairman and deputy chairman. I also, although it was not recognized as such, I was determined that there'd be a strong local input. I put the leaders of the local councils onto the board of directors, so that although they didn't have control, they had a very significant influence. And that worked, I think, well. Indeed, one of them said to me afterwards, it was a wonderful position to be on the board of directors where I could make constructive suggestions without that left-wing group of councillors always peering over my shoulder. But undoubtedly, looking back, one of the stars, one of the great stars of the whole venture was Reg Ward. And he was a tough guy, opinionated, determined, and he was going to do it his way. I mean, a very interesting example of that is that we also included in parts of the corporation an enterprise zone. And one of the criticisms that was made of the enterprise zones is that although they attracted industry and there were very quick planning procedures, the danger was that you just got people putting up sheds. Reg was having none of that. Reg saw the Docklands Corporation as an opportunity to develop quality. So he kept a control which was never really intended in the enterprise zone concept. He kept a control over the quality of what was done. I think he was absolutely right. But I think Reg would be the first to recognize that even he couldn't see that Canary Wharf and that incredible quality was going to be one of the prime developments that flowed. I had a great regard for Reg. I think he's owed a very considerable debt. Indeed, if I did try in later years to get him recognized in the public honours list. And I think it's one of the criticisms of the machine that he never was so honoured. He was a great character and did a great deal for the East End of London, but the officials didn't take to him. I never really knew why, but I suspect because he actually was not in awe of them. He wasn't going to be told what to do. He had his own views and he was going to get on with it. Of course, he had the backing of Nigel Brokes and Bob Mellish. And the best thing you can possibly say is look around you, because he laid the foundations. Anyway, it's wonderful that you're all here gathered on this significant anniversary. I'm very sorry that I'm actually abroad and can't be with you. Just one last thought that you may like to have in mind, that The big developments took place in the East End over those many years that have passed. Only one was pioneered by a British company, and that was the airport, the city airport by Molam. But if you look at Canary Wharf, it was the Reichman brothers, Canadians. If you look at what's happening in Stratford today, it's an Australian development company. If you look what's happening to the Dome in Greenwich, it's Philip Anschluss, an American. If you think of Excel in the Royals, it was the Malaysians. It's a slightly worrying thought. Anyway, let's rejoice that they all did it, and it's had such an amazing effect on the East End.